Right now, care is very expensive. To get one-on-one care, you have to be able to afford it, especially good care. When my brother's accident happened, we were all in different places. To hear, oh my God, he's a paraplegic, he's not going to be able to walk again. Like, I was so sad. My mom stopped me, said, Michelle, we're not coming in that room with that energy.
You own three care agency franchises. What impact do you see tech having on the caregiving industry?
I could bring in all the technology in the world, but if my care staff don't know how to use it and how the benefits of it, it won't go far. My mom is a woman of such strong faith. She kept saying out loud, he's going to walk again. And when the doctor said it's less than 1%, my mom's like, oh, he will walk again. How can I help when some people don't want that help? And it's very hard to hear that from family when they're like, I don't want help.
No matter how driven we are or how high we climb, there comes a moment where care becomes personal for our loved ones or eventually ourselves. Yet, we rarely talk about it while we're still in our prime. And today's conversation invites us to pause and reflect. My guest is Dr. Michelle Rankine. She's an entrepreneur, educator, and caregiver whose journey began in Jamaica and has spanned education, sports, and healthcare for over 2 decades. Michelle holds a PhD in higher education. She has built and now leads three care agency franchises with Right at Home in Texas, US. Her path into care was shaped by a life-altering family moment, giving her an intimate understanding of the emotional, physical, and spiritual weight that caring for others carries. Michelle, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for that great introduction.
That's fine. In this episode, we're going to explore what leading a franchise business entails, the business behind caregiving, the role of technology in modern care, and why self-care must become a leadership skill in 2026. So let's get straight to it. Michelle, you have built a career around caring for people. What early experiences or moments led you into this sector? Because from your background, you are from the education sector, you are from the sports sector. Reconciling that with care, we need the story. So we need to know why. How has this experience also shaped your approach to leadership and compassion?
I'll tell you, it started because of my brother's accident, but it has been a thread throughout my whole life. And sometimes we want to drift from what is right in front of us. Everyone in my family is a nurse or a caregiver or in the health field. And I just decided, I was like, well, I just want to do something different from what they were doing. But because they were doing that, I always had that exposure to caring and helping others. But when my brother's accident happened, I think for me, that was the first time a life event just suddenly changed for me and my family, where this is now going to impact us deeply. He was in an accident and he was a diagnosed paraplegic. And so many different factors had to come into play to be able to adjust for what life would have been for him. And I had never experienced that. I think that emotional journey for anyone when life throws you something, specifically for your immediate family, and it changes you as well in regards to how your level of empathy for others when things occur. And for me, that's how my story started of shifting into the caring business. I never really looked at it as a business before. And having the opportunity to see it as that because we needed that care was my introduction to it. But it was been the best blessing for me to continue. And I say this to say when you look at caregiving, is especially when you're coming from sports, you're looking at a win-loss ratio. I'm trying to collect these wins and not striving for perfection, but you're leading to that. And you want that in caregiving, but there also has to be a level of vulnerability that perfection is not attainable. And it's not a one size fits all for every person. It is such a very humbling and very vulnerable leadership skill to kind of guide each person differently through that journey because every person has a different disease process. Every family is going to go through it differently, and every family member has or family members have different dynamics that exist. And we saw that with my brother, and I came into caregiving unprepared with how to navigate it. And then with my stepdad, when he was diagnosed with cancer, I had all the tools. And even with all the tools, it was still difficult for myself and for my mom. And during that period of time, I was like, hey, mom, you have to do this. You have to do this because I know what to do now, right? I'm like, hey, this is what we need to do. And did they listen? No. They were like, no, my stepdad was stubborn. He was not going to listen to me in that manner. And so I said, okay, well, we're going to have a third party person come in. Like, okay, I know what the next step is. And he still didn't listen. And so, you see it from all angles of how can I approach this differently? How can I help when some people don't want that help? And it's very hard to hear that from family when they're like, I don't want help.
I think we need to have more of this type of conversations because you just get to understand certain sectors better. And just hearing you say that you're not only caring for the person, but you're also navigating the complexities that come with, being in that environment with the family. Different families you're attending to, and each person would have a different kind of behavior. It's a whole lot and it takes a toll on people, and we're going to get deeper into that. So from my research, I see that there's like a mixed sentiments about the caregiving industry. There's a strong appreciation for the rewarding and the vital nature of the work, yet it is heavily overshadowed by the concerns regarding systemic issues, workforce shortages, financial pressures, emotional burnouts. So when you look at the caregiving industry today, what stands out to you about the emotional and psychological toll that it has on caregivers professionally, and those supporting others at work or at home?
When you say that question, it comes in two parts for me. Clinically, right? The best form of care is continuity of care, right? And having continuity of care, generally for a recipient, for like, let's say it was your mom, you're going to want the same person or familiar people who are going to assist her. At the same time, how do we give the right support for those caregivers? Because they're equally with the burden of trying to be perfect, trying to show up, because there's a level of weight and responsibility they're carrying to care for that one. And their work is the most day to day truth that you're going to find about how someone is eating, what are they feeling, what are their routines, and if they're really following any routine. The caregiver who goes in the home and witnesses what someone does every day is the biggest truth teller. Those truth tellers carry a burden and they carry the time of rest. They need rest, but they don't take it. And so when you have those two elements, like I need this continuity, I need these people, but how do they get the break too? And sometimes what I have to do running a caregiving agency is to navigate those breaks for the caregiver and also really have realistic expectations for the family that it can't always be this one person. Because ideally, you build a relationship with someone that's coming in your home and caring for your mom or caring for your dad. But how can we meet at the same balance? And that I think is the biggest thing facing caregiving right now. And I think a lot of that is because they carry this level of emotional stress, emotional responsibility on both parties. If you are the caregiver going in and doing the work, you're carrying it for the family. And the family, even if they're at work, they're still carrying the guilt of not being there and hiring someone. So it's constantly like this. It's constantly moving and you're navigating that. And so for the person who is like the responsible party for their loved one, that carries a level of stress.
Yes.
And that's the most important person that needs a gratitude journal and a
Hmm.
thank you journal because you were chosen by your loved one and that's a big role. When your mom and your dad says, I want you to make all the decisions for me, that is such an honor, but it's also very heavy. Okay, I have to make sure I do these things for them. And so when you carry that, you have to also sit in your feelings and look at the gratitude of every day that I'm doing it right. And so it's a constant flow of emotions. And how do I regulate that one for myself and for the care that's being given to my loved one?
I like the idea of a journal. I can overemphasize the importance of writing things down, writing your thoughts. Over here in the UK, we find a lot of people that are involved in caregiving, but there's also still that struggle. You would find that there's the pressure beyond the caregiving. Most of the time, the people caregiving are even on sponsored visas, let's put it that way. So there's that pressure of, I have to take care of this person. And I can't even really leave this job because I'm being sponsored by the employer. So there's a lot of pressure that comes with that. You can tell that they're running shifts in the morning and maybe at night, and it's taking a toll on their health. What would you say to those kind of people? What kind of tips, especially as we're into the new year, when people like to start things afresh?
Yes.
What would you say is a way that they can protect their well-being as they're caring for other people?
Well, I'll tell you one similarity, whether in the UK or in the US, it's the
Yeah.
same demographic workforce, right? And generally, if you chose this field of caregiving, it is, I don't know the research behind it, but I will say one thing I've known to be true is that they're caring for others as well. So even if you've chosen the field to care, you're now the caregiver for your children, you are the caregiver for your family back home, and so it's a quadruple effect. They like to say the sandwich generation. You're caring for your mom, you're caring for your children, and then in between you're probably caring for yourself, your spouse, and your family back home. So you're a double deck sandwich, okay? You're fully loaded. So that those are generally those caregivers because they have to care so much for so many people, and so they find it rewarding, but it's also so stressful. And similar to what you mentioned earlier, we talked about the gratitude journal, and I think one of the key tips, I like to call it tending to your garden. With tending to your garden, it does work in three ways. Like we said, the gratitude journal, that's writing it and putting my thoughts to paper. There is a emotional release and de-stress when you do that. And I think also speaking it. I'm a person that I like to drive in silence and speak things to an existence. I don't want to listen to no music. That's my time with
Yes.
me, God, my prayers. I'm in a whole zen when I'm in my car. And another place that I try and do that is in my shower. And I have these shower affirmations that when wet, I stick them and I just say them out loud. The one I said this morning is, I am loved and I deserve to be loved. And I can just say that over and over. And I hear it in my head throughout the day because that's my gratitude for the day. That's my mantra for the day. I am loved and I will be loved. And so having to write it, having to say it is all part of that, I think, daily therapeutic practice of what I need to fill my cup daily. And everyone kind of has their thing, but I'm a woman of movement.
Hmm.
So till I get up and walk, I believe I can walk off any stress. So I get up and I go take a lap and I walk my dogs or I walk around the house or I just need to do some level of movement to help me de-stress. And when you look at being a caregiver and de-stressing, one, know the things that you need to tend to your garden, right? But also know that there's storms. So if you have all the tools that you need, whatever you're planting can weather that storm. But I also think that the storms are necessary. I always like when it is a rainy day or it's a cloudy day, because then that means, you know what? It's time to rest, Michelle. This is a time where I can cuddle up. So even though there's a storm, it doesn't mean you can't do your self care in it. Having those key practices daily. So when there are bad days, okay, let me go take a walk. Let me reaffirm things. Let me just write down one thing that I'm thankful for today. And just always keep that perspective because when you keep that perspective, no matter what's going on, it will elevate you from a 30,000-foot level. So it's not as heavy as you may need it.
If you have watched this episode up to this point, please take a moment to like and subscribe to Business Backstage. It's a small action, but it makes a huge difference because it helps this podcast reach more people who need these kind of conversations and to keep bringing thoughtful and practical business learnings to the spotlight. So thanks. And now let's get back to the show. Amazing. That is so powerful. And when you were just talking about what you do as you're driving and when you're taking a shower, I was like, Michelle is just talking about me basically because that's what I do. Yeah. When I'm in the shower, that's my affirmation spot. And honestly, with these tips that you have just shared, tending to your garden doesn't apply only to the caregiving industry or professionals across, even for me, the things that I'm learning that I'll be able to put into practice from today. I'm not waiting until next year. I'm not doing that. So, since we're also speaking about affirmations and faith, faith, I know it's a powerful theme in your own story. Can you share how faith has supported you during the seasons of burnout, difficult decision making, or moments where the emotional weight was very heavy on you?
Yeah, I think the best example of that is to kind of speak to my mom.
Okay.
I remember when my brother's accident happened, we were all in different places. She was in New Jersey, his accident happened in Indiana, and I was in Jamaica at the time. And so we all were coming together, but to hear like, oh my God, he's a paraplegic, he's not going to be able to walk again, like I was so sad. And when it was time to go in his room, when I arrived, my mom stopped me and she said, Michelle, we're not coming in that room with that energy. So she actually told me I'm not allowed in the room because she says, you are a woman who's going to cry on the spot and I can't have you. And so until you tighten up, you can't come in this room. And I was like, oh my gosh, why would she do that to me? But my mom is a woman of such strong faith. And she kept saying out loud, he's going to walk again. Even when the doctor said it is not less than 1%, my mom's like, oh, he will walk again. He will walk again. And she kept saying that every day. Okay, and she like when doctors would say, like, okay, this is what you need to do. And she would contradict everything they would say. Well, we need to add the grab bars, the ramps at the house for his wheelchair. And my mom says, well, that's temporary,
Good.
temporary things. And I kept looking at her like, okay, you're not facing reality here. That was a witness of someone whose faith was stronger than what is happening in the present. My brother does walk today, and he's a miracle story. And I mean, it makes me cry every time because my mom's faith was just so strong. She knew that this was not what was in front of her. And so every time when I think of something that just happening in my life that is very stressful, and even being a caregiving business, I'm like, there's nothing in front of me. God says, what is it? Do not fear, I am with you. God is with you with every step, and you have to proclaim what you want to the cross, right? And he will give it to you. And it may not be on your time, but he will deliver it for you. And so I always think when you have to have, what did it say? Mustard seed size. You have to have that level of crazy faith, abundance faith in anything that you do. This obstacle is in front of you, so you can't see it. And faith is of that you cannot see. You can't see what God is going to bless you amongst this barrier right here. You just don't see it. But you have to have that faith that there is something beyond that and that he has something greater for you because faith is what you need to carry on. I don't know how else to live without it. I don't know if everybody has the opportunity to witness a miracle, but there are miracles every day. And I was privileged to witness that.
That is just amazing. And I'm so happy because I was going to ask you, how is your brother doing? So it's just so great to hear you say that. And what an amazing mom you have.
Mhm.
I'm just thinking, what would have happened if it was me? I'll probably be, maybe the way you were reacting at the time. But it's just so important to have somebody who we uphold so high, like our parents, to be in that position where they are helping us to strengthen our faith. That you can't be in this room with that. We don't need that energy right now. That is just amazing to see. And I agree with you about the word of God. It is our anchor, it is what we lean on to. So even when we do not understand things, even when we're being stretched, what we have to hold on to is the word, and it never fails. I'm going to move on to the business side of things now. You own 3 care agency franchises, which is just amazing. So, what were the biggest shocks or realities that you encountered when setting up your first agency? Maybe you don't even know, or maybe they don't talk so much about.
Well, I came from working for companies, right? And so I think one of the biggest shocks for me was, Michelle, you rely on experts, but you also kind of have to figure some things out. And so for me, running a business, I did not understand the role of IT. I don't consider myself very tech savvy. And so, I would always call IT and then I was racking up a really big bill. And I was like, okay, I need to learn some of these skills of understanding how to problem solve some of these issues for myself and my staff. And so I think one of the things that was the biggest shocker is the identity of balancing all the roles and all the hats that you have to wear when you're starting out, right? You're going to hire professionals and experts for each individual field, but when you're starting out, that's all on you. And you're trying to, be IT, be customer service, be sales, be finance, and all the things. And so when you have every element of the business, and really just what I like to say is like, I had to learn it, I had to understand it, but I didn't need to become the expert in it. But the learning and understanding of all those roles was like going to university all in the same element again. And I had to understand it to be able to support those that I hire now in those roles and understand what challenges they may have. And so, even though it was gruesome to kind of go into all those roles, because there's a difference of doing something and like doing something. I think, you put anything in front of me, I'll figure it out. What we can do it. And I think for those roles, that was a very good learning experience for me.
I feel you because I'm in that entrepreneurship space and I support startup founders, people who are just starting up their businesses or maybe they are trying to kick off operations or even scale. So I do understand what it means to start to lead from scratch and you have to learn certain things, understand concepts. I would say the experience sometimes when you make mistakes, it always helps you, and just
There's
like
no
you
failure. It's
there
a
is no
learning.
cure, exactly, and it helps you, especially as you are now building a team and you're helping them to also navigate certain things that you did. And so I want to talk about, you know, building the organization. When you are managing multiple agencies, it requires a level of structure. We're talking about caring for the elderly or even the disabled. So you need to be structured. It requires consistency and calm leadership, just like you talked about in the beginning. So for you, from your experience, what systems, what habits, cultural practices have you been able to, develop to help you maintain the high quality of care across all your locations?
I think the biggest thing, like you mentioned, the structure, it's your system, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you have to build a system that you can redo over and over through each agency, as well as building the right people in it. I think no matter how good your systems are, if you don't have the right people in the right seats, doing the right thing always and keeping them accountable, that system will fail. And there's so many different pillars of our business. You have the client journey, you have the referral source journey, you have these different journeys, but within those systems, making sure that everyone is held accountable to their role and the things they need to do, and making sure you do that as a process.
Mm-hmm.
Making sure you're building that. For us, there is a book, Gino Wickman. It's called The Entrepreneurial Operating System. And so that is actually what we have instituted in our business. And that has helped us constantly keep that culture, that quality, and accountability at every level so we can replicate and do what we have as our core values always match, and making sure that everyone knows what our core values are of like communication, responsibility, dependable, that everyone knows what that is, because that needs to be driving what we're doing every day, keeping everyone accountable. I think that's the biggest thing. It's you have to have the system and you have to have the right people and strong people.
I completely agree with you. It's always about the people. The people are what make the businesses. So you could have the best core values displayed on your website, but if the people do not align with what you have put there, I'm sorry. So I want us to talk about the organizations basically and how they can create healthier environments because we see a number of workplaces would face the same challenges that we spoke about earlier. There's the emotional toll on staff, there's that fatigue, there's the constant change, especially now that we even have technology that is advancing. From your experience, what are those lessons from the care sector that you believe organizations across verticals should adopt to create healthier and more supportive workplaces?
I think the biggest thing is rest, instituting a culture of rest. That's the biggest thing. Rest is sometimes seen as not as quality, but it is, right? And so if you institute that as part of your culture, and you may see rest as a cultural value to say, every third week we're going to do team building and come out of what we're doing every day and rest. And I consider that rest because we're not doing the same thing every day. And so for me, I know for our company, giving that value to rest of, okay, we're doing caregiving. Okay, guys, we're actually just going to go make soap. That's something we did as a team. We went to go make soap and sugar scrubs together. That is just time to just one, get to know each other on a different level and do a tangible activity together and really just break from what we do. And as a corporation to say, hey, this is what we value. We're paying you for this time, and
Hmm.
we want you to know that we value your rest. I think if you lead with that as a cultural value, and not only saying it like you mentioned before and showing it in words, but actually doing it in action. The actionability that you hold that as a value. That's something that we hold as a value. Rest is something that we take for granted. I can only speak in the US, it's kind of frowned upon if you take too many days off. And it's different based on cultural values, but that is important. And it's also important when you create those moments to happen that you also intentionally create the moments to check in, because I'm speaking from a caregiving field, and most of the people that choose to be in this field is because they were a caregiver or they're currently a caregiver and they want to give back in another way. So I constantly am intentional of I need to check in with them because I know they're also caring for a special needs daughter. I need to check in with them because I know they're caring for their mom as well. And so making sure to be intentional about that and the gratitude that you have to show your internal staff as well.
Yeah, I think when it comes to leadership, sometimes it's innate, sometimes it's more like a strategy that you need to put in place to
Right.
help your organization. And, what you just talked about, which is taking some time off to go do something different, it's really important. Unfortunately, most leaders are thinking about the cost, the implication of rest. So, from your own experience, what would you say has been the outcome of this strategy on your staff?
It's funny. I think some people don't look at the ROI. Well, most leaders are looking at the ROI, like, "Oh, this is going to cost me." But if you make that a value, then you're not looking at the ROI as a liability, but as an asset. I look at my people as my asset. And if I am leading with a culture of caring for others, I should be intentional about caring for all levels of my business. And they are part of that. And actually, our product is our people. I think for other businesses, it can seem different. Like you may have something tangible or you're selling something. I'm in the people business and the service business. And so with that, you have to make that intentional, and the ROI is there because I know in regards to retention, our numbers are good, and there's a cost to that. And that is the biggest benefit.
It's good to know. And we're going to move to technology now. We're not talking coding here, but of course, technology is something that we can't ignore anymore. It's all in our faces, right? And we are seeing the rise of non invasive monitoring tools. I want you to talk about the tools that you have in the care sector. We have the likes of the Sensi AI. So, how have you approached technology in your own agency, and what impact do you see tech having on the caregiving industry?
I think right now it's the best thing that we have. The reason why I say that is right now care is very expensive. To get one-on-one care, you have to be able to afford it, especially good care. And one of the things that tech is going to do is help support for those that really can't afford it and be able to get the truth. So for example, we have implemented Sensi AI. Sensi AI is a audio AI technology, and I'd like to explain it so others can understand like what
Please.
is audio AI. So imagine your mom lives alone and you live on the other side of town. Every time you call your mom, she may say, "I'm perfectly fine. All is well," because she's never going to tell you that it's not
Nope.
fine.
Nope.
We generally, I always say here, we are in the culture of black box, right? We wait until there's a crash and then we try and back up. Okay, mom needs help now, versus being proactive. Having this audio AI technology in the home is going to count how many times she flushes, how many times she repeats words, if there was a fall, what that, all the things that's being said in the home. And that type of information, what time she wakes up, what time she says, oh, I forgot to take my meds. All of these things that's being said is important information. If you had that as a daughter every day to really know what's happening in the home is huge, because that's now giving every person the opportunity to have 24/7 care that
Hmm.
traditionally they wouldn't be able to have it. Because having a caregiver in the home, like I mentioned earlier, those are the truth tellers of what's the routine. And having the technology in the home is going to allow you to know the routine. And the AI is analyzing to see if there's a mistrend over the month. And so I think the tech piece is specifically with caregiving is going to be huge. One, because it's going to be intuitive about what the patterns are based on her patterns and where her routines are, but also that it has to be supported with care. So now let's say you have the audio AI technology in the home. You can then say respectfully, because you know now, because if not, you're like, well, I think she just needs help in the morning. But
Hmm.
really and truly, it might not be that, because the care report's showing she needs help at night. So having that information, informed information, you're able to make better decisions for your loved one in the time of their need. And so I just think this is just going to give better outcomes for care and stop things from happening, because many seniors, or the technology is what people think, oh, I need to wear my life alert, or I need to wear this wristlet, something that they need to wear. Okay, I can tell you right now, 1 out of every 10 is not wearing it. They're not wearing it. They don't want to wear it. So in the event there is something that happened in the bathroom, they come out of the shower too quickly, they slip, something can happen. And if they weren't wearing it, who's going to know? So having that there, just listening, and if it hears it, it's going to call. So having that level of monitoring at all times, I think it's only going to be helpful and better, because now you have informed metrics that's coupled with care. Not going to replace care,
Hmm.
but inform for the care. So it's
Yeah.
only going to make it better.
That is such a powerful tool. Just from you describing it, I can already feel the impact that it's going to make for the patients and also for the agencies. I mean, because you would be able to tailor your care better with your data. You now are able to channel your resources to the right places. So we're talking about innovation now, and I think you've touched a bit on it. So from your own perspective, how do you see innovation strengthening rather than replacing compassionate relationships at the heart of caregiving?
When you're in healthcare, you're monitoring a lot of different factors, right? There's a lot of different elements that you have to monitor. And I know for us, we have different AI features
Okay.
that are giving us the opportunity now to give better quality care, because we have, one, better metrics. Two, we have something analyzing at all times. Just for example, I have an AI that listens to all my calls, and it's constantly saying if there's a good customer experience or a bad customer experience call. And then it automatically coaches and sends to that employee, hey, this is how you could have answered this better. That is real time information and coaching that we wouldn't be able to do generally. And so having the opportunity now to have AI in our business is only making our quality better on
Good.
every level of our business. And so the innovation, I think, is one that we can't lead with fear. We have to approach it, and we have to meet it, and we have to be there with it, because it is going to be the biggest game changer, or you're going to be left behind.
I agree. Absolutely. So, Michelle, how do you see technology evolving in the care sector, and what skills will the caregivers be needing now and even in the future?
I think right now that's the biggest challenge for us, because many of our workforce aren't tech savvy. So we've had to try and implement to get them to a certain level of technology comfortability. I can't even say it. They need to be comfortable with technology, because that's not a lot of them. If they didn't have a smartphone, they don't even know how to use it. They don't know the password to check the email. They're like, how do I do this? How do I do that? They would just rather pick up the phone and say, just clock me in, or just do this for me. I can't bother with that. And so we have to become comfortable with technology. That is my biggest challenge right now, because I could bring in all the technology in the world, but if my care staff don't know how to use it and how the benefits of it, it won't go far. I've literally hired one person in my office, and that is all they do, is just help with the technology and educating and having them come in, because that is the gap right now. They're not tech savvy. They have smartphones, but they don't know how to use it.
Yeah, typical. And I think you've made the right strategic decision to hire somebody who is just responsible for technology. Because I think
Yeah.
what most organizations need right now is to have what they will call maybe an AI leader or a technology leader. So that's the person that is helping to drive the change and just manage everybody, make sure that everybody's, on board with it and they are empowered, equipped to handle the tools. So that's fantastic. My last question on
Yes.
this section, as we are into the new year, I think that caregiving comes in different forms, and we've talked about it in the beginning. So we have those that are actually in the care agency, care homes, and even as professionals, there is one form of caregiving. You're either caring for, just like you said, your spouse, your child, sibling. So what message do you want professionals to hold on as they step into the new year when it comes to caring for others while they are trying to care for themselves?
You cannot help others until you have helped yourself. And I think that's the biggest message for anyone right now. Sometimes we don't know what that is, but whatever you need, make sure you're pouring from a full cup because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And so, if that is just probably just one gratitude journal a day, or one 2 minute walk, or 5 minute walk, whatever you can put into your schedule, just make sure you get the rest you need so you can help others. It's no different when you're on a plane. You need to do your mass first before you can help the person next to you. And so that methodology is crucial, especially in caregiving and caring for your family. It's funny. The lady in my office says she has her meditation as soon as she gets in her driveway, and she sits in her car for 10 minutes before she tackles her children and goes inside. That is her moment. And sometimes we need that moment. She has to have, if I don't have my little 10 minutes of my peace, and she's like, it's when I stop driving. She said she can't do it driving. That's a distraction. She has to do it when she gets home. Find what you need and make sure you do it all the time, because it's like your armor to be prepared for what's in front of you. And I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that can transcend in any field, even outside of caregiving, just making sure you're doing what's best for yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Michelle. And now we're going to go to the rapid segment. I'm going to say a phrase and you would respond with the first thing that comes to mind, and feel free to elaborate if you want to, because we want to get to know Dr. Michelle better.
Let's go.
Good. So, rapid choice segment: faith before strategy or strategy before faith?
Faith before strategy. Faith is always first, hands down.
Awesome. Planning everything or adapting on the go?
No, plan the first one. Planning first. You can't adapt on the go, even though that is important, to be able to pivot, but you have to plan it.
Yeah. This third one, I think you've already answered the question, but I'd like you to talk about it. Silence or soft music? Silence. Okay. Trusting the process or trusting God?
Trusting God first.
Trusting God first. Asking for help or pushing through?
Ask for help.
Care as calling or care as responsibility?
Care is calling.
Care as calling. Do you want to elaborate on that?
You know why? I don't like that word responsibility. I think it carries a lot of weight. But if you look at caring as a calling, I see that as purposeful. And so to me, it doesn't create as much weight. And it's something that you can feel inside. That is my calling. So to me, responsibility seems like another checklist or a role in my job. And I don't want it to be considered a job. I want it to be considered something that's innate.
Yeah. This has been so insightful. Dr. Michelle, how can people contact you?
I think the biggest way to contact me is to find me on my socials. My name is Michelle Rankine, PhD, on Instagram. My website for my business is another way. It's www.rahdfw.com. And you can always be able to reach me on LinkedIn. It's Michelle Rankine, PhD, Instagram. Where else am I at? TikTok. And it's all my first name.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Michelle, for this conversation. Thank you so much for the lives that you impact and the perspective that you've shared with us today. If this episode resonates with you, like, comment. I want you to follow Dr. Michelle. Tell us what you've learned. This is a very important topic that we need to continue to have. Don't forget to click subscribe. I am Bukola Osuntoyi, and I will see you on the next episode.
Thank you.